So PSA is an industry term. It's not a term specific to Workday. It started back in the late 90s, professional services automation. And it was really around the time where people, solution providers, started figuring out, hey, if we apply manufacturing principles to services companies, we'll enable them to do more business more effectively, more profitably. So it's a term that's been around since the 90s. In relationship to Workday, when we say PSA, it's not one product, it's a combination of products. And those are time tracking, expenses, projects, and project billing. So it's really around practice management, if you will, for services companies. So I'll explain who I am in a moment, but I focus on this industry, and PSA is really kind of the heart of what people care the most about when they're talking about a full platform. So just want to make sure everybody understood what we meant by PSA. I may win the prize here for having the longest title of any session that will be attended. But hopefully at the end, I'll win a prize for the best and most informative presentation. So thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it. Anyone who's had any interactions with Workday has seen this slide, Safe Harbor. There may be forward-looking statements made today, so if you're interested in reading more about it, go ahead and jump on our investor relations page. So your panel today. So my name is Patrice Capello. I'll be the moderator for today, and not only do I have the longest session title, but I probably have one of the longest business titles as well. But really, to translate it quickly to English, I am the global go-to-market lead for Workday for the professional business services space. It means I spend all of my time talking to prospects, customers, keeping up on what's going on in the industry, how that's impacting our customers and our future customers. And then I work closely also with product strategy to ensure we continue to develop a really solid roadmap for our customers so that they'll be driving success and value from Workday. So it's a pretty fun job. It is global, and you might see me pop up in some of the strangest cities. But so that's who I am. And then joining me today by Javier Delgado, who's the Chief Operating Officer for B&B. He's also going to share his experience and his journey as a Workday customer with you. And on the end, my cohort, Charlie Yuan. Charlie is a product manager at Workday, focuses on projects, so a very knowledgeable guy. Very influential in where we take the product in the future, so he's a great guy to know. Feel free to introduce yourself at the end to this, to Charlie at the end of this. So here's our agenda. I really wanted to frame this presentation in terms of it's your presentation, it's for you. So what are the things that we get asked most frequently, and really kind of create the content around what are the questions that our prospective customers, new customers, or even existing customers ask us. So we'll talk about that, and then we'll answer those questions through B&B's Journey with Workday presentation. And then we will wrap up with a panel discussion. So I've got lots of questions here on my iPad that I can ask the panel, but I really want it to be your session. So please interact, ask your questions. You'll never get a better opportunity to hear from two very great customers of ours in terms of, depending on where you are in your journey. So with that, what are the questions that we get asked most frequently? Probably won't surprise anybody what I decided those three were when I put this together. So, what are the considerations firms have to think about going onto a single platform? They'll ask me, Patrice, what are the things that we should be thinking about? What is this experience going to be looking like? Because it's somewhat different maybe than how companies have operated in the past, where different departments operated in silos. So what are the things we need to think about? And then also, hey, the most important one really is, can we speak to your customers? So we will definitely give you that opportunity today. And most importantly, if you make the decision to go to Workday, what's Workday's commitment to my industry? So some of the considerations that firms think about and think about on an ongoing basis. It's not like that on-prem world where it's a one big shot and you're done and then it stays in a certain state for years to come after, right? So these are ongoing things, but I like to ask customers or potential customers as to what is the level of business process discipline you have in your organization today? What's your appetite to create a greater degree of business process discipline? So we see firms, I'm sure many of you are in this situation where you're growing rapidly through organic growth or through acquisition. And what we see is companies now kind of struggling to come back to, I need to create a consistent customer experience. And if I'm doing things differently across the organization, customers won't get the same level of service and the same experience. So we'll ask you that. In implementation, it's a big consideration to how much you're able to take on from a discipline perspective. Very hard for companies who've grown really, really fast and been very successful to date, but for growth purposes, that has to be introduced. A lot of times, and I'll definitely ask our customers to share this, but hey, if I choose to go with Workday, how are my people going to manage the day-to-day business operations as well as the implementation? And what impact is that going to have, depending on how much they're going to be able to focus on the project? And the last thing you want to do is come up with a platform that looks exactly like the system that you were trying to retire and really not take advantage of the value. And then this one comes up quite a bit, and I think it's a really interesting one. But so people say when they make a decision to go with Workday, so my leadership in HR and my service delivery leadership and my finance leadership all have to work together. Is that right? Yes, it is. It's a very different kind of way of doing business, but it's a huge opportunity for firms because really what everyone really should be looking at are what are the corporate objectives or the firm's goals and objectives, and ensuring that those are cascaded down through every area of the organization. So I always tell people, kind of embrace that, because it's the first time all the leadership is really going to be sitting there designing a system to drive the outcome, which is why you made the investment in the first place. Change management is always such a big issue, has nothing to do with any software you choose, there will be change. How do you manage that? Definitely going to ask our customers here to talk a little bit about how they manage that. And it's an ongoing issue too. It's when you move to the cloud and Workday's rapid innovation cycles, there's always new things coming, right? So there's going to be an ongoing change topic where you'll see features that are coming that you say, wow, that will drive a lot of value into my organization. How do I manage that in the most effective way possible? So that's just an ongoing thing that we all kind of live with in our lives, but certainly comes into play when you make a platform decision for sure. And then as I talked about that, consuming new functionality, some people might get overwhelmed by saying that, hey, we deliver 2 releases a year with up to 400 features in each one. We do it in the least disruptive way, have it come to you turned off. But it's something to think about going forward, how you manage owning this service of Workday is, how you, on an ongoing basis, going to plan your roadmap so that you stay current and really take advantage of the innovations available to you. So those are some common considerations. And then one of the other questions that I mentioned was, what's our commitment, Workday's commitment to your industry? I joined Workday about a little more than a year and a half ago. This was my first question before I signed my acceptance letter. Is professional services strategic to Workday? The answer was yes. I made the change. Because I just saw with the technology and the platform for my industry, this was the future. So strategic industry, really, why does that matter to you? Why does that matter to anybody? Always share it with people. It means I've got a funded roadmap going forward specific to my industry, to your industry. That's really important. So we're always working closely on developing that roadmap and keeping it as relevant as possible. So to date, we have over 300 customers in this industry. So we're starting to gain critical mass, and we can see the rate of customer acquisition in this industry is increasing quarter over quarter. So really, really exciting. And it's just better for our customers in the industry to know the more customers we have, the longer, the further the investment as well. And then for PSA, we have over 160 customers. It's been out for 3.5 years. It is core to the product, but it was about market ready about 3.5 years ago. And we're seeing the acquisition of customers of PSA increasing a high percentage quarter over quarter as well. So we're really excited about that. Next up, we have Javier, and they're a little further in their journey with Workday. So he's going to share some great things that they're still evolving and business insights and so forth that they're still able to, or now able to get out of Workday. So thank you.
That's right. Thank you, Patrice. Thank you also, Christian. Very good presentation. I found it very interesting and a lot of points in common with DMB. Well, I'm CEO at B&B. This is my first Rising. I always find Rising very interesting, but I guess it gets better and better every time. Okay. And I think the main thing about Rising is sharing. So this is why we want to share with you our experience implementing Workday at B&B. So let's start with a brief description of what B&B is. I'm not sure if many of you are familiar with B&B, but we are also a Workday service partner. In any case, we are an IT consulting company. We have been operating since 2003. So that gives you the idea that we didn't always operate with Workday. Actually, we have practices around business applications and digital transformation for other competitors. Let's call them the red and the blue. You may get an idea who they are. But today we are over 150 employees. And although we are a small organization compared to the average Workday customer, we do have some complexities of being distributed in many countries. So we are working today in 5 different countries, 6 different locations. So that poses some challenges that are common to bigger enterprises. So let me go forward and describe what our Workday project looked like. But first, let's start on how we selected Workday. So it all comes back to 3 years ago. We were getting bigger as an organization. We needed to find efficiencies mainly in our PSA part. So we started looking for a PSA solution that could enable us to improve our operational efficiency. So at that point, we were interested in being able to obtain things like margin calculation of our project portfolio and so on. Pretty much like a lot, we had a myriad of systems before implementing Workday. So we had in-house developed systems. We had also Excel, why not? Google Drive also. Even a BI solution. All of them eventually was to be replaced by the solution we chose. But on top of obtaining operational efficiency, at that point we were in a transition or transformation from being a, professional service organization focused on on-premise systems to more cloud-based solutions. So this was not only about operational efficiency, we were also looking at finding a way to fuel our growth, fuel our cultural transformation. And that's why we ended up deciding Workday. And why is this? Because of basically 3 main arguments here, 3 main reasons. The most important one is the integrated platform. So we are a Workday platform customer. We are using today PSA, HR, financials, and planning. Because we're almost a full suite, except for Prism, but almost there. And the reason we found Workday really compelling for this was that it is truly integrated. One of the advantages of being a software integrator is that you get to know the products more in detail, okay? So you know how other competitors work. And although you may find single vendors providing all these solutions, in reality, Workday is quite unique in how they work together. And that is actually has helped us a lot. It was one of the reasons for taking the decision, but has helped us a lot in the evolution after go live. The other thing I really like, I'm really kind of nerdy, so I really like the analytic features. So it's not only about having reports that you can interact in a way of changing dimensions, drilling down, but you can also action on those reports. So if you can make those reports available to all organizations and take decisions based on that. And finally, the continuous evolution. And one of the advantages of being Workday consultants is that we were exposed to implementing Workday at other customers. So we witnessed this evolution of the solution in every release. We have 2 major releases every year, but even in between, you get new releases, new features coming in. And this is actually something we are taking advantage. Not all of the time. Each organization tries to adapt to the ones that get more priority, but really helps us not only in let's say, in supporting our business today, but we feel confident that Workday could help us in the future. So let's go a little bit more into the project. Just to give you an idea, we started the project in October 2016. We went live March 2017, so 6 months for the full suite. The only caveat is in the first phase, we didn't do full HCM, so we did core HCM plus a little bit of talent, because at that moment we wanted to focus more on PSA planning or our reporting. But in any case, after that, we have also rolled out recruiting, compensation, and talent and performance fully. And we are right now implementing benefits and advanced compensation. So these two are the things that we're currently running. We are really looking very interesting, very interested in adaptive insights, because that could be very useful for us to replace our planning, Workday planning solution. So today we have over 1,500 projects in Workday. As a caveat here is that we are treating opportunities also as projects. So basically we are also able to track how our pipeline is looking like from our Workday solution. Kind of a CRM-ish, not totally, but kind of them. With them we handle projects of different types, like fixed price, fixed amount, time and materials, all of that is being managed by Workday. Now, as part of the transformation we wanted to make with Workday was to move it into a more collaborative organization. And there are a lot of features coming in from Workday. Actually, one of the latest one in Workday 31 now in September was the ability to do some self-service resource forecasting. And that is very useful for us because the project manager can forecast the hours of the employees, of the consultants, but the consultants can also modify and adjust those forecasts. So you get a better forecast, more reliable, and then, of course, better financial forecast, which is what we are interested in. Then integration, in terms of integrations, we did integrations initially with HubSpot, which is our CRM, basically for all interactions with customers. But later, actually, by mid this year, we implemented an integration with Facebook Workplace, which is our social network, internal social network, and that enabled us also to reach, let's say, increased engagement of our people. And finally, as I said, nerdy. So we built a lot of reports. Okay, lots of reports. Actually, I'm going to show some screenshots of those dashboards in the next slides. After we conclude the main part. So before we go into the reports, what is the value we derive? Well, I kind of already covered that, but let's say the main objectives which we had initially were the revenue processing. So we are much more efficient right now in terms of making sure that not a single hour is lost in translation. So we are able to always invoice. We are also able to track whether invoice should be issued already or not. That is very, very significant for us. And also a much better control on project financials. So whether we're talking about margin, whether we are talking about the forecast margin, we are able to obtain that information. And also increase worker engagement. So one of the features I like very much is this continuous feedback. Okay, and today in the keynote I found this service functionality that you survey Friday survey. I don't remember the name.
Oh, the Pulse survey.
Yes. That actually I think is very good to keep a notion of how the workforce is feeling, how we can really engage them and motivate them. So yes, I mean, I think in terms of the objectives, I think in terms of what we were expecting from our project, Workday really completed all of our expectations. Now, let me, before I hand it over back again to Patrice, let me just share a little bit of the dashboards and reports. Some of them are going to appear very, very small because really it's a multi-page. I couldn't do a live demo because in the end we had customers' names, so I had to blur them. But I could due to GDPR, I'm exposed to 4% of the already used too much. So you may not see it here, but I'm going to describe what we have here. So this is a customer manager dashboard. So it has a customer manager dashboard, which is basically our account executives. We call it the customer manager, just a name. In here, the customer manager is able to see which is the evolution of his forecast or her forecast in the future, how it's composed in terms of probabilities. He's also able to check which was the forecasted amount for the current month and which is the actual revenue recognized for that project. So in a way, they are able to check whether the project is going well or not. Okay. There are other features. Let me move into the next one. This is a typical executive scorecard. This comes delivered with Workday. We adjusted it a little bit, and here you can obtain KPIs. These numbers, of course, is that we could mask it, but we couldn't mask the name of the customers. But the good thing here is it's very good to give not only the situation, the current situation, but if you see they have small arrows up and down, and it can give you the trend of how each KPI is going. This is very valuable for your leadership team. This is a forecast analysis. It's more from a sales perspective. How solid is my forecast? So my forecast, first of all, how it's distributed over time, and how it's composed in terms of probabilities. And then at the part below, we have a P&L, basic P&L, which again, you can always read down action on this P&L. And to the left, to the top. You're right, okay, sorry.
You made that really hard on yourself.
Yeah. Okay. I'm good, I'm not an air controller. Okay, so to your right, you see a graphic showing how the revenue is split by customer manager or by practice. So all these dimensions, again, are your drillable, you can action on this. As a project manager, I'm interested in seeing which are the upcoming milestones, which are the upcoming resources that are rolling out of my projects. That is all information also I can share with project managers. And then from a sales management perspective, and this is the last one, but if you're interested in seeing more, we can talk offline. We do have an option here to validate how our pipeline is composed in terms of probability of each deal. Okay, so basically in this chart, you see that 75% I have a big amount there. I need to secure those deals in order to guarantee my forecast. Okay. So this is basically what I wanted to show. I think the next thing, Patrice, is discussion, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Javier. That was really, really interesting. So, as I mentioned, this is your session, so we really want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. Before I open it up to the audience, though, I did want to ask Charlie, as our product manager, if you could talk, Charlie, a little bit about, I've got a slide for you, talk about really what is driving our product strategy in professional services.
Yeah, sure thing. Thanks. I thought I was just up here to make them look good. But so within Workday and within PSA, we see our key differentiator and our key value add being the power of one. Having your people, their talent information, having the operational information, and also then having the financials all in a single system. And so in terms of things that we are seeing trends that are driving the strategy, I want to break it into those three different sections. So on the people side, on the talent side, things that we're seeing are, we see that it's becoming increasingly difficult to retain your top talent in this area. I think mobility is becoming, people are moving more, and so we look at that as how can we keep your consultants, your resources, and employees engaged in your organization to be able to retain them. We also see that within the talent area that the makeup of the workforce is changing. And so it's turning into more of a blended workforce. So no longer are we really looking at only employees and contingent workers, but we're looking at freelancers. Maybe you're pulling from your alumni networks, your retiree networks. So those are areas that we're also looking at in terms of how can we better support those in the future. In terms of operational, as they say, time is money, right? And I think no more true than here in this industry, especially. So for us, that efficiency, we want to make sure things that where we can automate, where we can provide recommendations, where can we really just streamline this entire process here to get through this area. And then finally, on the financial side, what we see over here as well is that we understand that there is a wide range of different billing and revenue management models out here. And so that's always going to be the case. And so we're built to be able to support that wide variety. And then lastly, of course, it's going to be global for us. Of course, as consultants, we know they're always going to be on the road, but more so even now, we're just looking at it from a global perspective and making sure we can support all the different locales and nuances for global.
Perfect, thank you. And in terms of, we certainly have detailed roadmap around capabilities we want to add or strengthen or add more options, but really, Charlie, can you talk about some of the big areas of innovation that we have planned?
Yeah, sure thing. So really it's these 3 different areas that are highlighted here. So one for us, and you've heard it, I think, all throughout Rising, right? It's going to be the buzzword, it's AI. So, AI, machine learning, pattern recognition. We see a lot of different opportunities to be able to apply that technology in all 3 of the different areas that I mentioned within PSA. So on the people side, within operations as well as finance. So, on the people side, just as an example, we're looking at machine learning to be able to provide recommendations for resources to be able to make that process faster. On the operational side, looking at pattern recognition, to be able to identify where you may be going off course, where you may want to do some course correction during your project execution. And then on the financial side, things that were mentioned, if people were in either the keynote or a financials keynote, things like, anomaly detection. So in looking at, in terms of revenue invoices and being able to have the system help suggest where you might want to be able to spend your time and energy. In the middle area that in terms of innovation, again, back to the primary keynote, if you saw over on the HCM side, they were mentioning employee journeys. Well, we see this as highly important for us as well. So in an employee experience or an employee journey, back to that point of how do we help retain and develop your top talent? We think that the consultants, the resources, right, in this industry are highly underserved from a software perspective. How can we want to be able to empower them, inform them, delight them. We want to be able to provide, on mobile, at their fingertips, a full experience in terms of throughout the life, not only of a project, but of their career at your organization. And then lastly, the other thing we're seeing here as well is that we're seeing this trend where that services companies are moving more and more towards additional digital offerings. No longer is it purely about services, but their portfolios are getting broader by offering digital offerings, and that's going to change the landscape in terms of billing, in terms of revenue recognitions, and so being able to make sure that we can stay on top of that and adapt to those types of things.
Perfect, thank you. And, thank you guys so much. You've been the best group since I got here.